He said, take a village to raise a child. But what if the village is retarded?
So remember like a year, 2 years ago, even maybe even longer. They said basically how people act off the internet, like uh, more or less pertaining to relationships. People don't have the relationship issues, or people are not behaving like people talk online, or the podcasters, or the red pill guys, or the manosphere, right? And you see what was going on now. Nobody's saying that. People online behaviors are very similar now to what people's sentiments are offline. Like, for example, pertaining to basically men not really dating like normally, or even I could even say women not dating normally, like the last, let's just say, generation, or even the last 5 or 10 years. People are, kind of avoiding dating, or avoiding the cost involved in dating. Um, and I remember a time that people were saying that no, it's no issues offline. It's, people are still, doing their thing and whatnot. And I think most of all, that's still very true. But one of the things that people, what's different now, is that a lot of people have, I believe, aged out of dating. I think at one point or another, people age out of dating, traditionally dating, because it starts to get goofy. I think people after 35 probably should get some type of um like somebody to match make them, or something like that. Dating, and then people getting older, a lot of people are elderly, older Gen Xers and boomers. They're not thinking about dating. They're thinking about, most likely, probably, how they're gonna retire, when they're gonna retire. They're thinking about other things because they're older. So they're already out of the, dating market, or out of the market as far as trying to look, be, who nobody wants to be an old dude in a club. Um, when I was young, I used to think about that, and I used to hear people talking about that. Comics was talking about that. It was, part of pop culture. Like, who wants to be that old dude in the club offering young women drinks for, conversations and opportunities? You know what I'm saying? Like, that becomes a time you get to be that guy. Like, if you're in your 40s, late 40s, or even younger 40s, if you still go to the club, you're that old dude that goes in the club. If you're in your 50s and 60s, obviously it's even worse. You're the old guy in the club, right? So that becomes a situation where people age out of that. And younger men, they have to deal with, the Z's, the younger millennials. They got a lot of stuff to deal with. They got a economy that's, still, tripped out. Unless you got crypto, or ideally Bitcoin, you probably are struggling. I mean, uh, it's job layoffs, it's AI taking over. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. AI is actually AI is actually the reason why I feel like I want to talk, because I'm kind of happy. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be honest. Like I mean, it's fucked up because I know the potential of AI. I absolutely know, because I dabble with it, and the abilities that you could do. with someone that, has just a very good communication skills. If you got very good communication skills, you can do a lot of prompting. You can get really good at prompting, getting good AI prompts. And um some of the reasons I come online, if I don't feel like it, I don't do it. But some of the times I go online because I'm kind of like feeling good. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, just this, this is a financial channel for the most part, and I ain't gonna lie, money makes me feel a lot better. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I'm, I ain't gonna cap. Money does make me feel a lot better normally,
Got
right?
money,
So, I ain't gonna
it's
lie.
the one honest.
And not too many of them honest nowadays.
Oh yes, you can. If you yes you can. There's some good men's out there. But what it is now, it's the women. It ain't the men.
Yeah, I had to press something because I just hit that by accident. But basically, um, yeah, I have been using AI, and I've been making a little money, man. I've been making a little coin using AI, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I use AI to also make programs to help with coding. So I've made some app. Well, I made one app that I was thinking about at work, and um, it took me some hours to do it. It took a lot of like reformatting, but I came up with a pretty decent solution. So I'm hoping to I'm hoping to utilize it to make some more money. Okay, that's all I'm saying. For now, but yeah, money does make me a lot more happier. Usually, as long as everybody cool, long as I'm cool, a little bit more money, it makes it even a better situation. You know what I'm saying? It makes me a lot more um at ease. You know what I'm saying? And last weekend I did pretty well. I did pretty well. Like, I ain't, you know, I had a good day at the casino. So I yeah. So, anyways, I just say all of that to say that yeah, AI is definitely also taking jobs, because you gotta think about this, right? And this is, Z's, the millennials, everybody, they're squeezing jobs. They've been squeezing jobs using AI, using machine learning for uh I want to say definitely. I first heard about it in 2017, around 2017, because I remember driving for Uber, and it was a guy that I picked up that was a programmer. He was a developer, and he said his main job was to basically find software solutions to eliminate basically human based job roles. And this was 2016, well before OpenAI, all of this other stuff, right? Well before that, this guy was actually, that's what his job was. He was, you know, helping companies create software solutions to eliminate jobs. So you gotta think, that's 2016. Where we at now? That's almost 10 years later. We're in 2025, and companies are, you know, slashing jobs, like, 40 going north, and a lot of people are not savvy. A lot of people got complaints because, like, it's people that you tell them to do something, they don't even do it because in their mind they don't know how to do it, or they're lazy or whatever. Um, they're not gonna even try to, like, pick up something and try to make any money off of it. They're not trying to learn anything about AI or anything. So they're cooked, you know. Um, but the thing is that now, I mean, obviously, you probably should learn as much as you can about AI so you can make some fucking money. So in theory, your generation, you actually now maybe you could set up something to where your grandchildren could be, all right, where you figure out some solutions to generate some profit opportunity, income opportunity, to where at the very least you gonna be straight right now, and you could probably say, most likely your kids are gonna be straight, and maybe hopefully most likely your grandparents are gonna be, I mean your grandchildren will be all right. Now you don't know about your great grandchildren and all of that, what's gonna happen, Skynet and cyborgs and all that shit. But you could just safe to say, like, if you really come up with like some, like, it's all kinds of ways you could use AI. Like, it's so many ways. Like, and if you could use like some type of AI solutions to, like, figure out a way to give you some type of edge financially, to where you have some type of financial freedom, ideally, and then invest that into something else to make you some more money. Because see, the thing is, money is supposed to make you more money. A lot of people don't get that. People lose that idea. But money is actually supposed to, like, once you get up, you supposed to never you supposed to never go back down. What's going on, Cortez Smith? And the thing is that that's not necessarily what I'm talking about today. What prompted me to go live was basically, the whole narrative as far as people saying how people are offline is not how people online. Well, we can't say that now. People on offline are behaving just like people online, kind of being like MGTOW monks, and not wanting to date women and stuff like that. That the offline world is now uh mirrored the online world. You know what I'm saying? But one of the reasons I came on here, I was watching. I don't know if y'all watched the Lapeef Network or whatever. Man, the chicks was arguing on there, and they was arguing with this old woman. I think she goes by Lady something. No, Doctor O or something like that. I don't know. Some older chick. She was married at one time. She was a teenage mom, and I was just, I was just like blown away by they. They was arguing back and forth at each other, and I was thinking about it. It was like, damn. I remember when people said the online world is not the same as the offline world. And it's like, now that's the case, man. It is. I see at least some of all this online. Yeah, yeah, it's mirroring the real world, man. And you got to understand who's dating now. I mean, millennials, the Z's are dating seriously or trying to date seriously. Some of probably the older millennials are probably falling back. Millennials are probably, kind of falling back. Generation X is kind of close to the boomers. They damn near fell back because, when women get like past 40, because all of Gen X is 40 plus. Gen X is 40 to 60 plus years old. So the women are pretty much, their factory is closed. Millennials, the older millennials, their factories are getting ready to shut down. And when I mean factories, I'm talking about female fertility, female birth. Their factories are going out of commission, or they're relying on science. Okay, primarily they're relying on science. Even 30 something year olds are relying on science because, for whatever reason, a lot of young people that are in their 30s, even 20s, are having fertility issues. You got PCOS and stuff like that. So a lot of the older women, they have, pretty much their factories are closing down, or they have the last Hail Mary, which is basically science, which is IVF, egg donation, surrogacy, all of that scientific medical jargon. You know what I'm saying? They're relying on that. Um, oh, Cheesecake Factory. Yeah, that's it's really like what's going on is like a market correction. Like it's like a financial market correction. Like in a dating market, you basically, what I see is like a dating market correction. Okay. Pretty much the women have pretty much had it easy for a long time. They've had it made for a long time. And unfortunately, they have a lot of pressure. Okay. Especially black women, most likely are probably the ones that have the most pressure. Then you also have white women. You might even say white women have a lot of pressure, or more, the most pressure, because um they're the ones that want to, that the white men want to, basically go back to being like a handmaiden, a housewife, and they don't really want to do that. They don't want to have any children and all of that. And their birth rates are definitely plummeting. And basically they might have most of the pressure. I don't know, but nevertheless, I mean, I see a dating market correction. That's what I see. And what I mean further by that is the women, they have a lot of pressure. That pressure, as far as, okay, the men are not really, they're tired of that bullshit. A lot of American men are tired of that bullshit. Certain tactics that they done, a lot of men have been, red pilled, or been put on game. So every time a simp gets, basically put on game, his simp chip gets deactivated. And it's a lot of simps that have gotten their chips. Every day a simp gets his simp chip deactivated. So once a simp gets his chip deactivated, he's no further use to the collective of women to utilize. Not saying not all women utilize simps. I'm not saying, because it's some women, it's women that they like who they like. Anybody that they don't like, they just stay clear of. And it's certain women, quite a few, that utilize simps to, get free rides at the airport, uh, you know, get, all kinds of favors, done, basically, getting furniture put together, work on a car, work on a house, whatever, and a lot of those guys, man, they kind of wisen up. The older guys are getting older. They, gone, they dying out, some guys, they, waking up or whatever. So it's just it's like a market correction going on. The economy's fucked up. There's no money. In order to simp, it's kind of it's the requirements. For the most part, you need some money or time. To actually simp. If you don't have the money, of course, you can't really simp like that. So uh those things are, they have something to play in that. And a lot of the young people, they saw the old people getting taken advantage of. They seeing all of these TikToks with women talking about what they gonna do, or what they already done to men, and what they think of men really, and all kind of shit. And they just, kind of have a bad taste in their mouth. you know. And the caveat to that, the icing on the cake is, you know, guys are kind of understanding that, you know, shit, this ain't the only place on earth. You know, it's it's a whole bunch of people. It's 8 billion people on this planet. Is, you know, probably half of them. Let's just say half of them are women. Well, I mean, you know, it's a whole bunch of options other places. Okay, you don't like me? Okay, I ain't hit no shit. All right, well, you know, let me make sure I got my passport and my visa require check the visa requirements for the new country I'm about to go to. You know, that whether they like me for me being American with some money or not, who gives a fuck? Like, you know, the thing about it is women's complaints and men's complaints are, you know, two different things. And how men think and how women think is two different things as well. Like, women actually care about what you think about them in regards to how you're attracted to them and all of that type of stuff. Men don't care. You know, I remember a long time ago, like, you know, before like, it was almost 15 years ago, I was dating some chick, and she said basically that she was basically giving me sympathy pussy. She that was what she said. She said she was giving me sympathy pussy. I didn't give a shit. I didn't give no fucks, like as far as, okay, thank you. You know, I mean, I appreciate that. Can you give me some more? You know, like, I guys don't give it. The average guy don't care about how you package it, as long as you're giving it up. You know, that's all that matters. Like, women, not so much. If you tell a woman you gave her some sympathy dick, she gonna feel some type of way about that, most likely. You know, she cares about how it's packaged and how it's delivered. You know, and the emotions behind it and everything. Guys don't give a shit. When you tell a guy, oh, you gotta go get some poor chick in some other third world country, guys don't give a fuck about that shit. They don't give a fuck about how, you know, ad hominem attacks, or um how things is packaged, or how things is looked, or whatever. Is Guys are outcome focused. Literally, they want the literally, just like it says, outcome. They want the cum to come out. Like, as long as the cum comes out, that's all that guys matter. Like, we really, you know, we you know, a lot of the, you know, some of the, I know I've heard women say men are not complicated. Very much we're not. You know, we want a particular outcome. That's outcome is all that we are really concerned about. Doesn't matter about all of the how it's packaged and how it's looked and all of that goofy shit. I don't give a fuck about all that. He said, speaking of the kids thing, let's see here. Speaking of the kids thing, that's another thing that we see in real life. All women are on code about not having kids in their youth. I ain't gonna say all of them, not all of them. But I mean, it is a change. I think it is a lower, the teenage pregnancy rate is lower, as far as I last heard. Definitely, the teenage pregnancy rate has lowered, um as far as teenage pregnancy. So that might, you know, that might have something to do with that comment. But I don't know. I don't know as far as if the single mother rates are dropped or anything like that. I don't know. I haven't really looked at it. I mean, I'm not really concerned about that per se. I think overall Americans are not having kids. That's universal. That's pretty much what they've been saying. The only people that's really having children in high numbers is actually first generation immigrants, or whatever. Like, that pretty much is, I think, the only dynamic that is actually having, like, probably poor people that are, maybe in the rural areas or inner cities, and immigrants. That's I think that's why the elites wanted immigrants to come over. It was a couple things. The immigrants actually was going to possibly kill two birds with one stone. The immigrants was going to provide basically labor at lower cost, and basically also undermine the lazy Americans that did not want to work or whatever or do certain jobs. And they was going to have children, so they were going to boost up the birth rates in America, and also probably even pay taxes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, that was part of that plan. But the thing is yeah, those are the only people that I think that are really having children. Everybody that's striving to be upper middle class or upper class, they know they're not trying to have any children. They want to have children a certain type of way, and they want a certain type of setup. Unless they have that setup, they're probably most likely are not having children. I myself I have children. I basically I had confidence that even though I wasn't making money at the time when I had my first kid, I wasn't even making that much money. I was moving to a new area, but then over the years slowly progressed to making money, and making certain financial decisions and learning about certain things when it comes to finances, and I'm doing pretty good compared to when I first started. But I wasn't scared because I knew I could provide for at least a kid or two. And then I was older, so I mean, I waited until my mid 30s, which is pretty late, but I had no concern as far as like, I believed that I could achieve any financial goals that I ever wanted to accomplish. I didn't think that kids was gonna put a hindrance into that. If not, I would even say kids probably put rocket a rocket booster on me, because when you're thinking about just yourself, you can sacrifice a lot for yourself. But when you have children, man, you got to go out and get what you need to get, because you're not trying to have your kids starving. That's I mean I don't I just speak for myself. I mean I you have a motivation outside of yourself when you have children. You know what I'm saying? So, but I didn't think that I didn't have no fear as far as financially. I mean, also you gotta understand this is one of the richest countries in the world, so um, you're you're most likely gonna be all right. Um, depending on the circumstances and everything like that. And at the end of the day, I mean, also there is social safety nets, as well. Not to say that I didn't get any food stamps or anything when I had none of the years I had children. I applied for food stamps. Um, but I mean, if push come to shove, if that did happen, I mean, it would have been okay. I would have, been all right. But I didn't have any fear as far as like any financial fears or anything like that. But I don't know. I'm somewhat of a risk taker. Probably more of a extreme to moderate risk taker anyway. So someone that's not much of a risk taker, I understand they probably wouldn't do the things that I would do or whatever. And I think immigrants are the only ones having kids in their 20s. Even black women aren't having kids in their 20s like that. Nah, they not. Not even women in the inner city, to be honest. A lot of women that want any type of like, they want a lifestyle and stuff like that, they're probably not trying to have no kids. Any aspirations, they know, kids are a certain thing. And to be honest, like being they have it wanting a certain outcome. A lot of women, I believe, they want a certain outcome. I think men as well. They want a certain outcome. That outcome is important, and I think for most people, that outcome is important for them to have children. So they don't have that outcome, and what I mean by that outcome is they probably want to be married. They probably want, someone that they want to have children with, and they want a certain type of financial dynamic, and that's pretty much it. Like for the most part, I'll say those are probably the two key points, or two key formula integers in that regard. But the only issue, though, the issue with that obviously is when women can't find a mate, they age out of fertility, and then it becomes a scramble, and it's either that they have to choose either their ego or reality, you know, and their ego will lead them down the road to be, like, basically, insert celebrity that that doesn't have children and aged out, um Vivica Fox, anyone, and it's like basically, that's the thing that goes with that. Or if they choose reality, um, you know, they'll get pregnant. Basically, they'll just get pregnant as soon as possible by any means necessary. That's literally reality, you know. So, Ebony K. Williams, or uh whoever, but the thing is that that's what goes on in that. Sometimes those perfect scenarios don't come, or not even perfect. The scenario that you would like to happen does not come, because I think a lot of women just, I don't know, I mean, it depends. I think most women, they don't really know how to. I don't think, some women don't know how to get men. So not all women know how to get men, and then a lot of women don't know how to pick mates. Because you got to understand, this whole women being able to pick mate stuff. Again, this is only uh about 60 to 70 years old. Women didn't always get a chance to just solely pick their mates. They had like a preference, or they can't date men. Usually, what, 1950s, 1960s, guy pull up in an old Studebaker. They, had to ask the father, can I date your daughter, and get some type of approval. Yeah, have her back at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and blah blah blah. And that was how that went. Traditionally, that was how that went, right? And the father, if the um potential mate or suitor wanted to marry the daughter, he went through the father and asked her for her hand in marriage, or his blessing first, right? That's traditionally how that worked. But you got to understand, there were also outliers, because you got people that were poor. You also had single moms back then. You had a lot of different factors and variables back then as well. But traditionally, overall, that was how that worked. And it was so much on code, as you mentioned earlier, that a lot of women, they weren't men couldn't even really fuck like that. They couldn't have sex unless, because a lot of the women, most of the women's were basically trying to um, save themselves for marriage. People were more secular back then as well. That definitely has something to do with it. But as Alan Roger Curry used to say, uh, author of Mode One and other books, back then men really couldn't have sex like that, because it was hard to, it wasn't, women weren't giving out like that. Men had, they were pretty much under the kind of household of a father and a mother, and if father and mother was really stern on them, and they couldn't really even go outside at night. They couldn't be out at night, sneaking around and poking about, So it was like, in order for, in the words of Alan Roger Curry, because see, I wasn't around, I wasn't around in the 60s and 50s and shit. So in order for guys to actually get laid on the regular, they had to get married. So marriage was the path of sex. So that's why it was a lot of marriages and stuff back then. The feminist sexual revolution of the 1960s and 70s led to, the things where you have now, where women can choose whoever they want to have sex with. They can choose who they want to marry. They can choose to have lifelong sexual experiences and become like basically a playgirl, where they can just have sex, as much sex and pleasure as they want to, as old as they want to, So these things, they have pros and cons. They have, actions and reactions, decisions and consequences, actions and consequences. I mean, obviously, when women become lifelong playgirls, basically lifelong sluts, they don't really have the desire to possibly even have children, maybe, or they just choose pleasure over, having children, or if they want to have children, they have a hard time, probably settling down. They don't want to get married, so they just rather just be maybe a single mother, with children. Just find a sperm donor. So all of these things have, causes and effects. But this whole women picking their own mates and picking, being able to do whatever they want to, sexually is less than 100 years old. In America, it's around, probably say, the 50s and 60s, somewhere around that time. So this is a fairly new concept. Some men fare well in this regard, in this type of, new world, type of decision making for women to be able to choose their own mates. And some men don't fare well in this regard. Some men fare terribly in this type of environment, right? Because I guess, you want to call it the 80-20 rule or whatever you want to call it. Some men that actually don't fare well. Actually, right now we're in, I would say, because of women's choice. Let's just say women. Let's just call it women's choice. I believe that women are really choosing, not even knowing that they probably choosing it. They don't really. I don't think they like that they're choosing it, but they're actually choosing polygamy. Women actually are choosing polygamy, and also basically just being poly. They're choosing polygamy because they're choosing men that have other women in it, are accepting of the fact that men have other women. Because in order to get the top men, or the men that they want, they basically are choosing men. A lot of times they're choosing men that have other women. That, and if men have other women, where does that lead the men that are just looking for one woman? Okay, that leaves them out in the dust. It might be men. It might be one guy and he's got 10 women. He might have 4 or 8. Where does that lead the man that wants just one? He might be out of luck. So that's where actually marriage, or quote unquote monogamous marriage, or traditional, let's just say traditional marriage, traditional marriage actually favored men, because basically you can basically get a woman. You pretty much can get a woman, you can marry her, and then, you know, ideally, hopefully she would have your children, and she would, you would be married to her, right? You'd have a woman, right? Even though women back then, they slept with the mailman, the milkman, the iceman, the policeman, the fireman, any man in the neighborhood. A lot of men went off to work. Them women, man, were you know, desperate. A lot of the women were desperate housewives. A wino walking neighborhoods with, anybody, and then you didn't have any DNA tests, so no one would know. I mean, unless it was just like a white guy and then you slept with a black woman, obviously, the guy's dark skin. He's like, oh, was this baby? What the hell? How's this baby so light? That's actually the story of how Louis Farrakhan uh, was born. His mom was basically married. A lot of people don't know. Like, Louis Farrakhan actually was the product of basically his mom cheating on his basically would be his stepfather. But basically, he while his mom was married, his mom's husband was dark skinned, and his mom was kind of dark skinned, and his father, Lewis's father, was a light skinned man, very light skinned, and she was with him prior to the husband, like she was dating him, and basically he came across her while she was married. He already had history with her. The rest was history. She got pregnant, and she actually wanted to abort him because once he came to be born, the cat was gonna be out the bag, because the father was light skinned, and um, it was gonna be noticeable once he actually once she gave birth. So she ultimately, obviously, did give birth, and the husband left her. Okay, and then she had to raise him by herself, and his other siblings. So yeah, man. What if? But see, you gotta think. Just think about this, though, right? Along with the same lines, right? What if it was the same person had the same complexion? Nobody would know. Like, if the woman slept, okay, let's say you got two friends, you got the husband, and then he got a friend that stayed down the street, a childhood friend, and he hangs out with, and he comes over, or whatever. It could be a neighbor, whatever. They looked the same. They had the same complexion. Nobody, the husband wouldn't know, because the baby it would come out a very similar complexion of what child he would have. Maybe noticeable features would, probably kind of, maybe somebody would notice, but for the most part, there was no DNA testing back then. I think DNA basically started in the late 70s. DNA came about in, I think, the late 70s, or might even been the early 80s. And all of the children beforehand, nobody would know. It was, that was where the whole term mama's baby's daddy's baby, you know. And now, according to certain data, they say 1 out of 3 children are possibly that have been, basically DNA testing done on has not been the biological father's uh, or supposed father's child, or they would say prospective biological father was not the actual father, meaning whoever the woman claimed to be the father was not the father. Like out of one out of 3, and it's not a law that it is mandatory DNA testing at birth. That is not a law. That is not done. For the most part, it's still going on where women have the possibility to have a child and the man does not know. Now, I will say there is a way that you can know that that child is yours, but it goes into certain sexual dynamics, and it goes into male hierarchy when you go down that conversation. And I have had that conversation before. I think maybe I had it on my Patreon. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's like it's kind of animalistic a little bit to a certain extent, but I'll just say this: a man knows who's his child, who his child is for the most part. If he really, if you know, you know what I'm saying. Like, if you probably ain't really hitting on shit, and she ain't really into you like that, you know, and she is a freak, and then you add that she's a known freak, and she ain't really into you like that, and you not really satisfying her like that, like that opens the door, that cracks the door for opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And then overall, you gotta understand, like, it's some women that are really freaks. They be having sex at work. For the most part, it'll be either at work or they could be talking. It could be a lot of different possibilities. You know what I'm saying? But if you're dealing with a freak, you know, a woman that's, let's just say, highly promiscuous, then the odds probably go up even further. Like, that's why, like, dealing, like, the whole term "hoes are just for fun" thing is a valid statement, because when you dealing with hoes, like, or let's just say nymphos, you dealing with a nympho, like, basically you open a door to stuff like that, because nymphos are hard to sexually satisfy. They always looking for um someone to satisfy them. They're it's like a nympho is like, just imagine a light switch that's stuck to the on button, and it hardly it does not shut off. The off button just don't work. Like, that's what you're dealing with. And when you dealing with a woman like that, and you trying to get her, you get her pregnant, or you trying to get her pregnant, let's just say, and you open a door for all of that type of, like, paternity stuff or whatever, DNA, all that stuff, because you know not really supposed to be trying to get no women like that pregnant. That's just not ideal. But guys are animals. Guys do what they do, so it happens. But it's a crapshoot if you dealing with a chick like that. She got all kinds of partners, and the possibility of constantly bringing in new partners. You just rolling the dice as far as if that child is going to actually biologically be yours or not. Um, because typically a woman that she's supposed to really just be bonded with you. And if she has bonding issues because she's been with so many men, and she's, let's just say, a freak that, possibly cheats on you or steps out or whatever, You know, you wouldn't really, maybe you wouldn't know or whatever. I don't know, but you know, he opened the door for all of that. But you gotta know women, and if you know women and you know particular types of women, you know how to kind of navigate that. But a lot of dudes probably, I don't know how many, you know, like I said, if you know, you know, it's one of those types of things. But you know, they say, yeah, 1 out of 3 testings that are done, the the probable biological father is not the the father that is turns out to be the actual true biological father. You know, that's you know, just I guess nationwide, you know. So yeah, that's some nasty work. That's some nasty work because that opens the door. Oh my God, that opens the door to so many issues because you gotta think like you raise you damn near pretty much you're quasi stepfather. If you're raising a child, I don't care if you're attached to them or not, you're you know what I'm saying? It's like nature basically alpha fucks beta bucks. You basically are a beta paying for a child, rearing a child that's not yours, you know, and you know, it's like she knows who she's been with, she knows what she does, she knows what happened, when it happened, all of that. Like she ain't gonna tell you, but you know, she knows that she's been with someone other than you for sure, you know. So, you know, it just I don't know, man, when you doing all that stuff, like guys be all over the place and they be having these relationships, these loose relationships with women and shit. And I don't know, like calling they girlfriend bro and all that type of shit. It's like, oh man, you know, she works at Amazon. She working at your girl work at Amazon and you know, shit, just all you gotta do is just Google Amazon sex stories. Knock yourself out. Go on Reddit and look up Amazon sex stories. You know what I'm saying? Um, shit. Go on Twitter or some shit. Like, you know, yeah. They be going at it like rabbits up in that Joker. Um, that's just what I heard. I've never worked at Amazon, but you know, that's what some women do that shit, man. You know, they you know what I'm saying? They go in the secret room or a little hidden room. That's all that's needed. Shit, man. One of the dudes I used to work with when I was working downtown Chicago, I was working for I guess I can say it now, Blue Cross Blue Shield, downtown Chicago, right in front of Millennial Park. The little the little mirror, the little beam with the mirror in the park or whatever, like right across the street from there. One of the dudes I was working with, man, said we had like a floor that we rented for it was basically for storage primarily. It was for storage for assets to be shipped out, processed, returned, shipped out, you know. It was like a shipping floor or whatever for our IT assets, right? So anyway, the whole floor was empty. I mean, like literally, you could probably live in that Joker. Nobody would even know you was living in there. Like you could, if I wanted to come to think of it in hindsight, like I could have just got me a cover, and it was like a few rooms that was like empty. It was several. It was actually the whole floor was empty, other than like the room where it was like one worker there or a couple workers just packaging boxes and opening up boxes. Like that was pretty much at any given time. It might have been like 2 or 3 people on the whole floor. As long as you was, I mean, like literally. I mean, you could have probably just slept overnight in that one room. Nobody would even know. But the thing is, one of my homies that I work with, he took a chick, one of the chicks he was talking to, up on the floor, and they had got it on. So it was like, it was actually, I think a couple people was doing that, but I mean, it happens, man. You don't know. Like, that's one of the things that is tripped out about actually working. I was listening to Sergeant Willie Pete, and I remember he said, I've heard this before, but it's a general economic term. Uh, owners, and um, workers. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, like on some like high level shit, really, you really supposed to be a owner. That's really what I be talking about on this channel. Like, like I tried being an owner at one time. I had a business. Like, you really supposed to be an owner because your woman should be working for you. You know what I'm saying? Like on some alpha shit, on some like serious alpha type shit. Your woman's supposed to be working with you, and you supposed to be around her like a fucking animal all day, protecting her. Like look at yourself like a fucking alpha wolf. And because she works with you, it's no opportunity for no other, beta or Charlie male to come in and copulate with her because you were working with her nonstop. Because that's how my granddad was. My granddad worked with my grandma. Like they had a liquor store, it had a laundromat, it was apartments above. Like that was, generally that's how they met. My grandma actually worked for my grandfather. I mean, he wasn't my biological grandfather, but she worked for him. My biological grandfather was sick, and she needed to work. She had 5 children to take care of. So they hit it off, and then he married her, became a stepdad to my aunts and uncles, my mother, and basically they worked together at his businesses for nearly 30 years. And basically that's how they did. Every day they was to wake up, go open up the liquor store, the pharmacy, laundromat, and tend to the apartments and stuff like that above the building. And that was every day for them. Like, so it's like really your woman, really, you supposed to have a dynamic where your woman works for you. That's why I'm like, I ain't no different. I ain't no different. Like, I want a fucking housewife, like, or a woman, yeah, work for me, like, and shit. Cause um I did have that. I had that for like about a couple weeks. I ain't gonna tell that story. I told that story before, but if you one of my diehard listeners for years, you know that story. But I ain't gonna talk about that right now. But let's just say for a couple weeks, yeah, I had a female employee in my computer shop. But basically, yeah, that's the way you're supposed to have it. You're supposed to have it where you got a business or or enterprise or whatever, and your wife works for you. And your wife. I mean, it's what women have the opportunity, regardless, to cheat. They're gonna cheat on you. They're gonna cheat on you, but on some like serious type shit. I do strongly believe in nobody can serve no person can serve 2 masters. If your wife works, she's working for someone else. She's not working for you. And I think to a certain extent, I'm not saying it's an ironclad thing, but I believe that's where the disrespect comes. Women coming home with paychecks, they work for some other company, and it's like basically they can't disrespect their boss, because if they disrespect their boss, they get fired. So you are actually supposed to be their boss, You know, you're supposed to get a higher level actually of respect than they give their boss. But most of the time, women don't act like that. Women don't. The average woman, or let's just say wife, she doesn't give her husband more respect than she would give her boss. You know, and a lot of both, all, I'll just say, typically, all women of, I mean, all men of all different races, that's what they complain about. You know, um, and I obviously this dynamic is for the lower class and middle class, because those are the primarily the workers, the proletariats, right? The workers. So they don't have the ability or know how to start a business and actually have it profitable to have their wife work for them. Or let's even say, I don't know if the wife would or the woman would work for the husband. She might be like, I want to do my own thing type shit, you know? So um either way, the thing is, you know, no one really can be it's very hard for a woman to serve two masters. Well, she works for someone else, she technically has two masters. She's actually supposed to be your under your mastery, right? That's why men are called misters, right? That's where the word mister comes from. It's masters, English. So when she works for a boss, and like I said, in order for anybody to keep their job, they have to have a certain level of decorum and respect, right? That's how you got the job. On the interview, what did you do? You showed decorum and respect. That's how you got the job, and you keep that same decorum and respect to keep working the job. So everybody pretty much does that, women and men, right? So when women come home and disrespect their husbands, which a lot of women do, a lot of American women disrespect their husbands, or at the very least, I would say it's really quite common that American women do not give their husbands the same level or higher levels of respect and decorum that they give their boss at work. Okay, generally. So the thing is that what I'm saying is that it bodes true, because technically in that case, what I'm saying is women are serving the master, which is their boss. They're not serving their husbands, and that's why you know got all these complaints and podcasts and red pill and manosphere and all that. That's where that's partly why all of these things exist, right? So yeah, that that Bible quote or quote itself, it serves very true. No one can serve two masters. You know, they're not serving two masters, they're serving one, and that's their, you know, independence and their income and their job and their master that they work for, not you. You're not their master. So having a business, or you know, some type of business where your woman is working for you, not only is she around you, you know, I mean, the whole cheating aspect, I mean, obviously women could cheat, they could be very crafty and creative, but most likely she ain't when you right there. You know what I'm saying? My granddad was in one cat. Okay, they had two cash registers. My granddad was on the side with the liquor store, basically the liquor, and he had a grocery store. And then my grandma, she was on the lotto. She did the lotto or whatever. And a funny story with my grandmother, she actually and I found this out when they did the funeral. She was a number runner for the black mob in Chicago. I mean, I didn't even know that, man. It was a funny story, but I mean, I already knew my grandmother. She worked for the Chicago black outfit. She, you know, she worked for them. She that's how she got kind of made her money and had a building. She had bought a building in Bronzeville. So and that's where I basically, you know, basically my roots. I mean, south side of Chicago, Brownsville. Um, basically a Greystone. If you from Chicago, you already know what I'm talking about. As far as real estate, those Greystones around Brownsville area, 47th and King Drive, Cottage Grove. So like, yeah, man. I mean, that's one way to look at it. As far as if your woman is working around you, ain't no the work husband. He would, you know, he would be able to be dealt with right away, like I say, like an alpha wolf in a wolf pack. As soon as another male wolf tries to, copulate the alpha female, the alpha sets the tone right away, and attacks. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I mean, I went in a rabbit hole with that one, that perspective. But nonetheless, I mean, that is a thing. Women, they are fucking around on dudes. And that 1 out of 3 ain't something I came up with. It's an aspect of what actually is the data. He said, what he said, wait, he said, I worked at Amazon. This is interesting. Oh wow. Um, say I worked at Amazon. It was literally worse than a jungle. Shit, a jungle. God damn it. White dudes call black people jungle fuckers. That's what I thought of when I read that. And yeah, man, I could just imagine, man, all of that pent up frustration and hostility. I mean, I worked at UPS, bro. I worked at UPS when I was 20. I was 25. It was 2005. I worked for UPS. I had a scholarship. I was part of a scholarship program at UPS. It was called, I think, the CRCP program or something like that, where basically if you work for UPS, they would pay they would give you like a stipend every month, and they would pay for your tuition, they pay for parking. So at that time I was going to Chicago State University, which was like it was an untraditional HBCU, which means it was not traditionally a HBCU, because Chicago State University was a pretty much a primarily all white institution when it first started. But Chicago became black or brown or whatever you want to call it over the century, and basically black people took over the whole university, and it became a HBCU. True story. So basically that's where I was going at the time, and I was working at UPS, and it wasn't necessarily a jungle, but I definitely got some cheeks while I was working at UPS. And I wasn't it was just one girl in particular, and we just hit it off. She was actually in the same program. Think she go to the same school? I don't know if she went to the same school, but she was definitely in the same program, because we used to have like nights where they had activities, like we'll go bowling or somewhere, and hang out and stuff. So yeah, man. I remember, man, it was people fighting, it was dudes fighting, it was women fighting, um it was man, it was crazy. It was because it was a high, intensive labor situation, man. It was crazy, man. I bought a shotgun from this dude, and he actually lived in Gary, to believe it or not. And I was like, damn, like Gary. I just remember going to his house, and of course it was look, real rundown, or not rundown, but it just looked real grimy. Of course, he was a grimy dude, and I just bought the shotgun from him. I was determined. I don't know. I was kind of into guns back then, but yeah, I remember, man, coming to Gary and being scared shitless because I'm transporting a wet man. If I would have got caught, man, I would have got a federal. I would have got a federal offense for transporting guns across state lines. Um, like I said, I always kind of been a risk taker, man. I guess it's in my DNA. I don't know, man, but um, that was a tripped out time, man. It was it was kind of wild, man. They when they say what can Brown do for you, I can tell you working at UPS, most of the people working there were Hispanic, and black people, and a few white people. Few white folks, but mainly black and brown. So when they say what can Brown do for you, they really mean that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, yeah, facts. Number facts, man. That's the like default code for basically modern, definitely modern American women. But women been doing that for ages. I remember my mom used to act like that. My mom used to be pissed off as hell. She was a teacher. She used to be frustrated like a motherfucker when she came home, dealing with all them badass kids and their parents and shit. Yeah, it's they go to the market a lot. You know, they have farms and shit. They got cows, cattle. Um, yeah, I work from what shift was that? It was it was it was like it was like I think that I think that shift was it was 10 to a 1, I believe, or 9 to 1, because it was only like UPS. They figured out, this a high intense labor job, so it was a part-time job, so they would only let you work 5 hours. So each shift was only 5 hours. So it was like every night it was just 5 hours. So like basically you would work only 5 hours. So it was like 9 to like 1 in the morning, you know. And I was getting paid the same as everybody else. I figured out what they were doing was the accounting, just basically what they did was they just took the money out of what they were giving me for the CRCP program, the scholarship. They were just kind of taking it out of my paycheck. But I liked it. You know what I'm saying? It was cool. It was a good situation. Unfortunately, I had quit, and I shouldn't have did that. You supposed to put in a resignation letter or something, or let them know that you want to resign, because what I ended up doing was being banned from actually working for UPS ever in life. They put me on a lifetime ban list. I mean, I was like, damn. It was times that I wanted to come back and work, because it was like a guaranteed job. It's like Biggie said, don't be mad. UPS is hiring. Like UPS is always hiring. Like it's like one of those jobs they're always hiring. FedEx, UPS, they always are looking for someone to work, because it's just basically a meat grinder. Because nobody really wanted to do that job. I actually worked there for almost a year, and that's pretty long. Because I remember, like, you have training, and you remember the people that were in training, because you see them every day. Like, and I remember being like one of the few people left that was in the training class, because after like the first month, like people start quitting, and people, it's kind of a hard job. It's a high turnover rate. So it wasn't that many people left in my original training class. Like after, like, cause I worked there for almost what, like 10 months, and it was like only like 3 people in my training. It was like 10 people in the training class. It was like 3 or 4 people left when before I quit. It was like only 3 or 4 people left in the original class. So you got to work there. At that time, you had to work there for a while in order to move up. I tried to move up to be a supervisor. That was challenging. And then to actually get full time, you got to work there years to actually get full time. Because it was some guys, they were working there and they were getting full time, but they worked there. They already was working there like 7 to 8 years or something like that. Like the dude I bought the shotgun from, that was from Gary. He was there like working there 7 years, and I mean he still didn't make full time yet. And it was like, man, I was like, wow, this shit is crazy. Um, because it's like you're not getting paid that much to work there. What that like that job only paid like, I want to say about 300 a week, maybe $200 or $300 a week. Like that's not enough money to survive off of. Like you had to have that job and then another job. It was because it was only part time. So for them guys to be working there 7, 8 years, man, it's like, God, dog, that's some dedication, bro. Man, I didn't last a year and I was out of there, but they pay though. They if you can stick it out, you gonna be straight. Like if you could mess around and become a supervisor or get on the trucks or something like that, apply to be on the trucks, man, you gonna be them trucks. Some of them truck drivers make like 100 grand or more, especially now since they got that raise because they had went on strike. Some of them dudes they make it over 6 figures, man, pushing them damn them UPS trucks. But yeah, all of them like them medical the freaking hospitals. They ain't nothing but like, man, them they man man they is in there, man, going, man, they them late night shifts and stuff like that, man, they is getting it on. Them nurses be, man, they be the dudes that are the disorderlies, the janitors, man, they be getting it on the doctors and the nurses and the male nurses and other, man, it's a freak fest, man, up in there. Them hospital, like my homie, he used to work in the medical field, or actually still do technically, but he worked in a hospital or actually a nursing home. Man, that dude went through not all of the women that he worked with, but a lot of them. Like he was going through them. Like over the years, man, he was going through a lot of them chicks, man. Them CNAs and a couple of nurses and shit. I mean, he was he was going through them chicks, man. The medical industry for sure. I know they be going through it. They be saying they got little stories and stuff. Like they got stories on YouTube. Like, man, they be going back and forth. They that's why they come up on that list as the number one cheaters, nurses. And nurses have a bad reputation because primarily black nurses, they be dating thugs. They the main ones to be dating thugs and shit. And they technically have a degree and everything like that. Because in order to become a nurse, you got to have a 4-year nursing degree or whatever. Then you got to take all kinds of board certifications, and you got to put in time in a hospital and all that type of stuff. And um, basically kind of like like a doctor would do a residency, nurses have to work in hospitals, you know what I'm saying, for a particular period of time. And then after they graduate, they have to pass their board certification to become a nurse. So it's a lot of stuff involved in that. And they still, yeah, they go through all that, and they be dating thugs. But I think some of it has to do with the women that they come, what the environment that they come from. Because if a woman comes from an environment where she grew up around, you know, basically in the hood or something like that, that's who she's gonna date. That's who she's attracted to. You know, and in the black community, that's a lot of that. You know, that's pretty standard. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, and then music and stuff. It pushes the culture of thugs on to women to be attracted to. They brainwash actually to be with thugs. So that has something to do with it as well. But yeah, man, the medical field, I know. Yeah, they be going back and forth, man. You know what I'm saying? They be getting it on for sure. And cops, female cops, male cops, um, shoot, lawyers, paralegals, even lead attorney. He was telling you how he used to get it on with his paralegals and shit. Going back and forth. I mean, people gonna do stuff, man. They gonna do. It's animal nature. You know what I'm saying? They gonna get. It's just access and opportunity. Oh yeah, to be a male nurse, man. Probably dick will probably fall off. I mean, shoot, them nurses be having some rumps, boy. Oh my god, them nurses be. Oh my lord. I wouldn't mind. Like, I would like a lot of them nurses, man. They pretty cool because a nurse generally is a smart chick. She knows quite a bit. She's educated, so she has a bit of education. She looks good, and they be dealing with high stressful situations because they be working long shifts, and they be dealing with a lot of death and a lot of sickness, and it's a lot of stuff they got to deal with. So you know, they got to take all of that in and actually come home and go to sleep and all of that. So they they by their very nature, they're put because of their profession, they have to be black pill. They have to be because they've seen the worst of everything. They see some of the worst in society. They see the worst part of society. They actually every single day that's what they see, and death. Every single day. So, but they don't. Yeah, man, they pretty. You know what I'm saying? Pretty freaky too, man. I guess it's a lot of pent up frustration. I don't know, but a lot of them women be fine in a motherfucker, man. They be having some stacked bodies, boy. But yeah, man, I don't know. Being a doctor or a nurse, and man, but you know what? I normally don't like to do nothing that when I work, and I've had a lot of jobs over my years. I don't be other than when I was in the military. I have never really got down at work. I don't think at one time, other than being in the military, being in the Navy, I have never had sex at work. Cause most of the times when I get a job, I'm unfortunately in a situation where I'm destitute or I'm really broke or busted. And risking losing my job, I could never really do. Like I could never put myself in a situation where I could possibly lose my job because you don't know what could happen. Like, okay, you even even normally I would not even date. Like, I mean, I can count on my fingers. Like the chick that I dated when I or was with was basically just had a one night stand. And when I was working at UPS, that chick was probably the only chick I ever been with that I work with. Like she probably was the only chick that I ever was with that I actually worked with or worked at the same job because I normally don't even date the chicks that I work with because the risk of something happening where, maybe something happens where, she might go to HR or something. I just couldn't risk that. I could never risk that. And I like my privacy. And then two, doing it at work, like you, I couldn't risk losing my job. Like, I don't know why I did it in the military, but I actually did it in boot camp, man. We used to like in the Navy, you at boot camp. I don't know if they still do it. They probably do. You have a week where you have to do some type of duty on the base. You have to serve dinner for the recruits, because you going, you in the process of you, before you actually get out of boot camp and graduate, you have to do like a week where it's like a duty week where you have to um basically usually work in the what we call the galley, which the galley is the cafeteria. So you do galley duty, and basically you either be serving, you be washing dishes, stuff like that. And I work, you'll work in a dock where basically the trucks come in and drop off the food in the galley or whatever. And I would work at the dock. And one day, yeah, yeah, actually I got caught, and it was I didn't get caught in the process, but I had got caught after um we did it. And it was a, wasn't no dude, wasn't no YMCA. It was a chick from somewhere in Georgia. She was from Georgia. She didn't look good, but it was what it was. But it was a E5 petty officer that came in, or he might even been a chief. I don't remember, but basically I was just sitting down. We had already got it on, and I actually broke my zipper on my jeans. I mean, not my jeans, my pants, my actual recruit outfit. You have pants and a shirt. It was usually at that time was a light blue shirt and navy blue pants. I had busted my my zipper, so actually my zipper was out. It wasn't like I could just be like, it wasn't like, you got to keep in mind I'm in boot camp. It ain't like I could just go back to my barracks and just put and swap out my pants. I had to wait till we actually got done for the day, and march back to the base, and then change and get ready for to retire for the evening. And then what I'm saying, take my clothes off and all of that, and then the next day I would wear, my other pants. I think they gave you like 4 or 5 sets of pants or something like that. So anyway, like, yeah, I had actually kind of somewhat got caught, because he could have been like, man, why recruit? Why is your zipper busted? You know what I'm saying? But I didn't even go look that further. I think he wanted to know where the direction of something was or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of frustrations in boot camp. needed to needed to get that out. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. I've been talking for like an hour or two about cheating, man, and getting it on at the workplace, and why your woman might. It's a strong opportunity that your woman is getting it on at the workplace, and that opens the door for possibly um paternity issues, right? Or paternity issues on your behalf, you being the guy, right? So yeah, it's a thing. It's an actual thing. Okay, it's not just an American thing. It happens all over. It happens in Africa. It happens all over, man. It's like I said, America's 1 out of 3 paternity tests comes out to be not the father that is tested. Okay, so the actual father that is in question is not the it turns out not to be the father, the actual biological father of the child that is tested. So that's 1 out of 3. So you gotta think about it. Like that's pretty big margin. You know, it's not. They didn't say 1 out of 4. They didn't say 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, 1 out of 3. Okay, that is like wow. You know what I'm saying? That's a small margin of error. So it is an issue, and there's no paternity testing that's mandated. So every child that's born, it's the mother's most likely baby, but the father's maybe. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that that's an issue. It's not an issue unless like you got to know your woman. You got to know who she really like. If yo basically, I'll just give it to you. And we about what? How many hours in? Uh, about an hour and a half in here. If your woman is sexually like really sexually into you, for the most part, it's a possibility. But for the most part, she's not stepping out on you because you know what I'm saying? You gotta know she's sexually into you. Like she's gotta be really like if she's really like a woman is really into you, she's into you. You know what I'm saying? She you ain't leaving nothing room. You're not leaving no opportunity for nobody to come in. Ain't she basically fucking the shit out of her? She ain't hardly got no energy to fucking get up. So if you drop in the wood, you ain't you really, to be honest, most likely, unless you like you said you dealing with a pure unadulterated nympho, um, you probably most likely you ain't gonna have no problems with that. So that's what I was talking about. But it's furthermore into that, but that's the general synopsis of it. Basically, you know, that's where I mean, that's why it's called alpha fucks beta bucks, man. You got to know how to fuck. Basically, that's the moral of the story. If you know how to fuck, you most likely you probably ain't gonna have no problems in that regard. But it depends. You got to know your woman too, and you got to know women. Okay, how do you get to know women though? I mean, well, you gotta get with some women to know women, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I got off on a tangent when it came to paternity and workplace romances and workplace copulation and all of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, relationships is a thing. Like I said, I was watching Lapeef earlier. The women were arguing. Oh man, they was going at it. Oh my god. Oh, they were going at it, boy. It was so bad. I'm gonna tell you, it was so bad. They had to kick a woman off the panel. Okay, they had to kick someone off the panel. It was so bad, and they don't do that in Lapeef at all. That was my first time ever seeing that because basically, they were having a conversation about basically the older women giving bad advice and having a bad example. And one of the only older women that was on there really was like, a woman that was like probably in her 50s, late 50s, or probably even early 60s. And she was talking about how she was married and she had, wonderful children, is successful. And they were like, well, you're not married now. Why you didn't, if you were so great, you could, kind of like that. Like if you were so great, you would still be married, ma'am. They basically said one of the chicks said she was a failure. And I didn't, I don't watch the show regularly, so I don't know all of the tea. I don't know all of the, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So the chick, she knew it because she was a regular panelist on there. So she was like, the one chick she's basically a lesbian, or she's bi or something. So she was like, you know, you a cat licker basically. So I was like, oh my god, damn, they just spilling the beans. Like she basically said you basically deal with women, so why are you even talking? And then the other chick, she, you know, she basically, I had no idea none of this was going on. You know what I'm saying, I just watch the show every now and again. I watch the clips, and the one of the chicks that is kind of not really trying to get married, she was married at one time. Turns out she had a daughter, okay, basically a baby, and she got involved with some dude that basically killed her baby. And the old woman, I think her name was Dr. O or something, I don't know. She said that's your fault. And the woman was like, no, that's not my fault. How do I know some guy's gonna kill my baby? And you know, I'll say this, to be honest, it is. I mean, you know, she would never own up to that, and they were pushing the narrative that, you know, basically it isn't her fault. I mean, technically, it isn't her fault that her baby basically got off by you know, her boyfriend or whoever she was dealing with, but technically it is her fault. Like, you know what I'm saying? And in fact, I think, you know, a lot of times how she looked at it, it is just how it is. Like, she was looking at it kind of like dark, kind of like black pill. Like, it is what it is. You, as a mother, you know, or even father, whoever you involve your children with, and you put them in harm's way possibly by involving this person, that is technically your fault, because the child doesn't pick the, you know, guy that she didn't pick, the guy to come around. You picked that guy to come around. So you picking that guy to come around put that baby in possibly, you know, future physical harm without you even knowing it. Of course, you don't, most people don't expect someone to shake a baby to death, but, and you obviously didn't do it, the guy did, but you were the link to bring this guy around to possibly shake your baby to death. And unfortunately, that's the harsh truth of nature. Nature is harsh, is brutal, and you know, if you overlook anything, you could die. You know, and possibly even your children can die. And you know, that's the thing. It goes back to what I said like over an hour ago. Um, this is less than 100 years in of women being able to choose their partners. This is a new concept. It's not even 100 years old, and what you're seeing is, you're seeing the fallout of women's choice, you know, versus the paternal father's choice. The paternal father, or in this question would be the paternal grandfather, most likely, you know, that wouldn't have happened, right? If, let's just say, men, because men vet men better than women. Okay, men just do. Men are not sexually attracted to men typically, so they're just looking at the content of the character and if this man is qualified enough. Men are men are better able to do that than women, because women are looking at other shit like, he looks good. Damn, I heard he got a big dick from Kimberly, you know, down at the block or down the block. He tall, those things don't necessarily predict outcomes of, like, you probably wouldn't ask him certain questions like, do you have a criminal record? Do you know? Do you have gainfully employment? Do you, certain questions, would not be probably answered because your pussy's wet. You picking men based off of how, how much your pussy will be wet. It is like, well, if you're single, it might be particularly consequences related to that because, if he's shaking a baby, he shake your ass. So you picking masculine, highly masculine, violent men because you have some, what do they call it? You have what do they call that shit? I think it's habistrophilia, which is, you have a attraction to dangerous men, and it's like, yeah, all of these things, all of these factors, you not knowing it or thinking in hindsight, yeah, you didn't necessarily in that particular situation kill your baby, but you allowed someone around to kill your baby. That's why some women absolutely, some women, they don't even let dudes around their children, and their children are not necessarily even babies. But when you have a baby and you let a stranger around your baby, I mean, a lot of women don't even do that. They don't even allow other men around their children, and especially a baby. Because women typically don't do that, and then typically, if you got a woman that has a baby, she's generally with the father of who she had the baby with. She just fucking had a baby. And it's like, whether it was a breakup or whatever the fuck, I don't know, but I mean, she had a role to play in that, but of course, accountability is very, very hard for women to swallow. And she was basically saying that she went to therapy and blah blah blah, and she was convinced and she was told that she had nothing to do with that. But she knows, she might not want to portray that on the internet, for the world to see. But unfortunately, the reality is the reality. Again, like, you chose to date while being a mother of a baby and bringing another man around your baby. And here's the thing, nature says this, and I know people, the average person doesn't think on a level of nature, but male offspring of basically, just basically offspring that is not of the biological father does not go well in nature. Meaning, if you look at the animal kingdom, children of other men around other men that are not the biological uh, offspring of the children, it does not normally go well. And unfortunately, there's countless stories of actual human men uh, that it's not going well. It's historical data, criminal records, criminal cases of that not going well. And unfortunately, she might have been young and dumb and, full of cum or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Darwin is Darwin, nature is nature. You taking that risk of dating while having a baby is a risk, because especially women do not vet men better than men. So I'm not saying women are impossible of vetting men. It's some women that absolutely do get it. Obviously, most of those women probably are in successful relationships and are married, obviously. But a lot of women do not know how to pick men. Okay, again, dating men that are dangerous, that have criminal records, and all of that is a thing, right? And if women are, they have some type of hybristophilia, you know they put their possible offspring that they already have in harm, in jeopardy, and without not even fucking knowing it. They don't even know about hybristophilia. It's cats that read, fortunately, that have YouTube channels, and that's why people know of hybristophilia. I remember I went on Nightish and I talked about that, and then he put it. He's more popular than I am, and he put it out there, and then other people know about it. So um, it's not something new. I'm not the only one that ever talked about that, but yeah, it's a thing, and it's consequences when you date dangerous men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's not. It's like, ask a woman that is had a thing for gangsters and thugs and criminals and shit. Go talk to a circle. Go have a circle, like go have a like a group, a group session of women that dated, had relationships with dangerous men, drug dealers, men in the streets of all various shapes and sizes, hitmen, whatever, drug kingpins, pimps, all kinds of men, right? Of the street, of the, doing criminal acts, right? Dangerous acts, right? And they'll tell you stories where they had a fucking wake up call. And that wake up call could have been they were in the car and they were in the passenger side, and the dude pulled up and started spraying the car. And then they saw their boyfriend's, brain particles, hanging. And they had they fucking, wake up call, or the thug nigga wake up call. And then, they lifetime church members because they have fucking PTSD from that encounter. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that is a thing. It's a it's a thing that is associated with poverty and lower class neighborhoods where men have to to do certain, or I'm not gonna say they have to, but they are kind of coerced or pushed into a life of crime or whatever. And they, what I'm saying, women, and attracted to the fast money and all of that, danger and the risk. And then they had a fucking wake up. They had a wake up call, and then they got to smoke a square for the rest of their life, and because they got ticks about that situation, because they thought they were gonna catch it, and just unfortunately for them, they didn't get caught, But in Chicago, man, these young cats, man, they shooting everybody in the car. They not just choosing just the dude, and they killing they killing in Chicago. They killing the chick too. They killing the fucking chick too, because they trying to, they vicious, boy. They shooting kids, all kind of stuff. Oh man, that's what's up, man. You went to a good high school, because I ain't heard nothing about that shit in no damn high school. I didn't hear about that until probably either my late 30s or early 40s, or recently, which would be my early 40s. So you went to a high school that talked about that. Damn, god damn. They don't even talk about that in college, and probably unless you taking like criminal law or something like that. Yeah, they do that. They do that a lot. It's typical. Leaving as soon as they have kids. I literally had a woman flirt with me when their babies were weeks old. The black it's wow. Yeah, they do. That's pretty standard. It's almost like they have a relationship just to have the kid, and then they got what they wanted, which was the kid, and then they close the relationship off. But unfortunately, like, I mean, I didn't say anything. I could have said something. I could have sent a super chat, but they ended up kicking the older chick off the panel because they thought what she said was insensitive. But it can't. I mean, it might have came off like that. But reality is, okay, in a court of law, that woman did not shake her baby. She didn't have anything to do with shaking her baby. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's kind of, I'm laughing because it's kind of like it kind of black pill. It's kind of like dark. It's kind of like dark, not dark humor, but you know, it's other places in the world that they would have dealt with that situation differently. Obviously, the man would have been okay. Let's just say this happened in Saudi Arabia. She was involved with a guy that got basically killed her baby. Well, in Saudi Arabia, under or either other countries that have some highly intensive Sharia law, this is how this scenario would have happened, and you got to understand, this is why I also have the kind of the understanding of why I say she's also at fault as well. You know, she is at fault because she chose to do what she did, which is date this guy and not truly vet this criminal. Okay, this sick deviant that shouldn't have been nowhere near her or even any children. So anyway, in Saudi Arabia, obviously the dude got his head chopped off. Then because there's no really, she wasn't supposed to date a man, or there's no dating over there. She probably, I don't know if she would have got killed. She would have gotten killed herself, or she would have probably got like 20 lashes, because you're not supposed to have sex without being married as well over there. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of Muslims don't talk about that, like, because they kind of do whatever they want to in this country, but in Saudi Arabia, you're not even, in other countries as well. I think even Iran is like that. It's no sex before marriage. You get caught having sex before marriage, you could get lashed. You get whipped. You know what I'm saying? They old school over there, Old Testament type shit. So the thing is like, yeah, she would have got lashed. Yeah, because she shouldn't have been with him out of the context of marriage. And in order to, guess what? Then this was how the United States used to be, right? Standard cultural tradition. In Islam, a woman cannot get married unless she gets the father's approval, or a male's, usually a family member's approval, brother or uncle. That man has to be vetted through usually the family's fraternal family members, whether it be father, uncle, brother, type of situation. Normally it's the father. He has to also even pay the father some type of dowry. That's how that goes on. And that usually, typically men do not kill their own children. Most of the times, 9 times out of 10, the people that kill children are men that have no biological attachment to the children. So I mean, a lot of young women don't know shit like that because they stupid, kind of goofy, you know, um, come drunk and all of that type of shit. But it's like, yeah, man, unfortunately, that's the reason I look at it. Not because I grew up in Sharia law, or it just my understanding is not even based off of Sharia law. It's based off of just basically reality. The reality is, just as I said, you're not supposed to um deal with men, even women, that you not vetted. Look at a lot of the guys that's on YouTube or whatever, Manosphere or Podcast Bros, whatever you want to call it. The commonality of us is we've had relationships with women, and it really resulted in a bad circumstance. And primarily the reason was because we was either simping. Usually it was a combination of being a simp, and not really vetting the right women. You know what I'm saying? Not choosing the right women, right? You know, so it's consequences. You know what I'm saying? But for both men and women, you know, with their mate selection. And the thing with women is, you know, because women primarily are in this country are in custody of children. You know, they they have even further issues and consequences when they don't fully vet men that they're dating or they're, you know, having relationships with, you know, especially, you know, obviously sexual relationships with as well. But yeah, like, I mean, that's the reality. Like, you can't tell me, oh, my therapist that I paid through my insurance, $200 an hour, she told me that I didn't have nothing to do with that, and I need to make peace with that in order for you to move on. But you know, deep down in your heart, in your carnal heart and mind, you had something to do with your baby not being alive because you chose to deal with this fucking crazed lunatic Dexter nigga, and he shook your baby to death. That's the black pill. That's the hardcore fucking charcoal pill that you just swallow. You know what I'm saying? Reality that basically, yes, you did have something to do with your baby being born. Now, can you, you know, you know, that's the reality. That's the pill to swallow. But I mean, you know, obviously, you know, it ain't nothing you could do about that. You can't bring your baby back. Your baby gone. I don't know what happened to dude. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know the particulars or whatever. Obviously, probably in jail or some shit where somewhere, hopefully for life, for kill, you know, shaking babies and shit. You don't want nobody around. You know, that's why you see these videos with dudes they be walking their children, families be walking their children, some crazy lunatic comes up and just takes the baby. And I've seen videos where some woman starts stabbing the little baby or trying to stab at it or whatever. One dude, last video I saw, some dude picked up a little baby boy and was walking off with him or something. Like, yeah, like that's why you got all this type of shit, man. It's crazy people. It's a lot of crazy people that walk among us, and you know, a lot of people on the streets and shit. You know, you gotta really watch. You know, you gotta watch your kid on the street. So imagine you trying to date someone and you bringing this crazy lunatic in your household with your children. Yes, you have something. Unfortunately, you know, the old woman on the panel, she might have said it on some like slick type shit because she was trying to. I will say the tone and her representations of conversation or her conversational leanings was, you know, kind of like, you know what I'm saying, slandering the chick, you know what I'm saying? But the way I would have said it, it wouldn't been no slander. I would have just been like, ma'am, I don't, you know, I heard, I know you went through a lot of heartache and pain, but you, at the end of the day, you chose to not fully vet this man and bring him in your house with your children and your baby, your newborn baby. And he did what he did, and you have to deal with the consequences of that, of course, and you have dealt with it. But you saying that you had nothing to do with that and you didn't do it, actually shake the baby, is true. You didn't do it, but yes, you did have something to do with it because you brought this killer inside your home. That's what I would have said. And it wouldn't have been no slander. It was been the absolute truth. So help me God. If I really wanted to be even colder with it, but I don't want the chick to, you know what I'm saying, go grab a razor blade or nothing. I was gonna play Alan Roger Curry, you stupid. But you know, she might, you know, probably see this shit or something. You know, I ain't, you know, you just gotta man, this shit, you can move one step in in the wrong direction. Everybody drives cars, right? You on the highway, you doing 65. Man, if you just freaking turn the wheel to the right just a little bit, man, you know what I'm saying? You cause an accident, a 5 or 10 car pile up or something like that, man. I've been, you drive, you've been driving and you've been on the highway, and then you look to the right, and just so happen a car just whizzed right by you. You like, damn, if you would have freaking just got in the right lane, like you might have been thinking about getting the right lane. If you would have gotten the right lane, man, you'd have been cooked. You'd have been literally charred broiled. You know what I'm saying? They'd have been just getting your remains up off the pavement. And that's how that shit works, man. You make one calculated wrong step, and that's all it takes, to put your life in jeopardy and others. So it is what it is, man. Unfortunately, I mean, a lot of times women don't, of course, in that scenario, that's really hard to take accountability to that. But because you got your own, child that's involved in that situation, that is no longer here, but it's still nonetheless. I mean, saying it's not your fault is that's the ultimate. That is absolutely untrue. I mean, the way the chick, I mean, obviously said it, was kind of slanderous, but still, I mean, again, you know, I know whatever. A lot of times people want to say stuff to help them sleep better at night, but end of the day, yeah, you had something to do with that, man. Now, I mean, if you want to have some kids, man, I mean, you could reach out to me. I don't miss. I can help you out. Maybe I can co-parent with you, and you don't have to worry about. You know what I'm saying? Some kid, some kid killer or some shit showing up. But it happens. Eddie Curry. Eddie Curry, Chicago Bulls, former Chicago Bulls center. Eddie Curry grew up one town away from me. He was about 3 years my senior, 3 grades below me. So when I was a junior, I remember I was going into my junior year. It was a summer, and I saw Eddie Curry come up to the basketball courts with his dad. He was with his father, and he looked like a freak of nature. I mean, he was like a freshman. He was like 6. He was already about 6'10", and his dude he was just super tall and big, and he came up there and motherfucker dunked on my ass. I actually tried to block him too. It was funny. This motherfucker dunked on my ass. Like, I mean, we didn't even play a game. He just kept coming up there just to, I mean, it was almost like his dad was just showing off his circus animal. Like, it was just saw this tall ass dude. He was like, "Yeah, I'm about to go to high school. I'm in 8th grade." And I was with my homie, and I think he dunked on both of us. I mean, I was only like what 6'1", 6'2" or something at the time. Like, yeah, dude went to Thornwood. I went to Thornridge. Thornwood was literally down the street from Thornridge. Like rival team. He started on varsity. He played varsity all his high school career, from even the time when he was a freshman. I mean, and he went to the Bulls. The rest is history. Made a lot of financial blunders, a lot of bad financial choices, and obviously even who he chose to have children by. If you don't know the story, probably might know the story, may not. But Eddie Curry had a baby mama that got involved with a lawyer, and he wasn't no lawyer. Just no, he was a he was a lawyer that was, let's just say, was, you know, kind of, I would say, kind of dangerous, kind of, kind of gangsterish. He had this gangster, kind of dark, dark gangster lawyer type motherfucker, and he got involved with his baby mama, and they were coming up with some scheme to get a maximum amount of child support from Eddie Curry. He was at the time playing for either the Bulls or the New York Knicks at this time. And come to find out, I guess the baby mama wasn't going along with the plot or the plan or whatever. Man, that lawyer killed his baby mama, killed uh the one of the I guess she had two children. She had one with Eddie and another with someone else. He killed the baby mama and one of her children. They caught him, ended up catching the lawyer. I don't know how much time he got, but this happened more than 10 years ago. And yeah, I mean, this is a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? Like, who would think a lawyer would be, the freaking cold-blooded killer, but come to find out he was. And this is a true story. And it happens. Like I say, I mean, men care about their biological children, but other children, typically doesn't fare well with other men around, or males, let's just say. Just doesn't work good in nature. But I mean, I know that I'm a nature buff. I've been watching National Geographic and Discover since I was a little kid. I mean, well, Discover wasn't around really when I was a little kid. It was kind of new, but watch National Geographic, PBS, and all of the nature videos. I know nature is, nature is nature. Nature is vicious and rough, and yeah, you're not supposed to have you. You're not supposed to have just any guy around your kids. You know what I'm saying? Your babies. It doesn't work well. It just normally doesn't work well in that scenario. I mean, some women, they have lifelong, they never bring anybody around their children. You know what I'm saying? They just do their thing on the side, or when their children are away, and then that's it. Like, and it's a reason why that's the case. That's actually probably a safe way to be if you're not, if you don't, know how to commit to a man or know how to find the right man or whatever. Because you bring somebody else around your kids, man, it just, you're just taking a risk, and I know it happens, and it's, most of the time it doesn't happen like that, because who goes around just trying to shake babies and shit, trying to kill babies and kill kids? Like, normally that does not happen, but chances of it happening is very high when you're dealing with men that are not the biological, father of the children. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things with nature. But nonetheless, I mean, it's countless stories of that actually happening like that in various different ways. And that's just one that did actually happen that I know about personally. Well, I don't personally know about it, but I just know about it because I remember the story. It happened in Chicago, you know what I'm saying? So but yeah, man, I had to get this. I guess this was like a therapy session because normally I watch Lapeef, and they just be, a lot of times they be really, really kind of being, kind of almost really, to be honest, being simp like when it comes to the conversations with the women. Sometimes they are tough, they ask some tough questions, they bring some tough commentary usually, but a lot of times they be, kind of just kowtown to the women, and the women be capping their ass off. That's normally what happens when you watch Lapeef, right? The women capping their fucking ass off, and then the men trying to push back, but the men letting them cap, and it's like, that's normally what goes on. And it just, I will say right now there is a Mercury retrograde, so maybe that might have something to do with it. for whatever reason, man, them chicks was snapping tonight, or the, last night or whatever. And it was snapping hard, and it was just like a cat fight, you know what I'm saying? And um a lot of things was said. It was kind of crazy, and I just had to get that shit off my chest, man. I think that was the major reason why I went live. And then I was feeling pretty good, won a little money or whatever today, and won a nice little pot. And I just felt compelled, man. But I hope someone, this is a pretty lengthy live stream right here, 2 hours, man. God dog, I gotta actually go to work tomorrow. But I hope somebody got something from this, man. A little bit of wisdom, because yeah, I mean, you probably get a different perspective of me. When I come on, I'm not an average person, so I have some commentary that's above normal of what you would normally hear. I got a lot of gray hairs now, so I'm a little older. You know what I'm saying, myself, but yeah, man, it's a lot of things you got to consider, and I don't know where the future of dating and relationships in America. I guess it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. Um, I definitely think, like I said before, it was like it's some type of market correction as far as dating is concerned. Men are not going to go for the usual and all of that get the bag, Meg the Stallion, City Girl, cultural rated prostitution type shit. Is that shit lame? That shit thrown out like yesterday's trash. I mean, guys are still trying to do that. I don't know. I guess maybe it is still some out there, but the young millennials and the Z's definitely ain't trying to go for that shit. And to be honest, I mean, a lot of things have been said, and they just kind of are soured by what's said and the actual reality of the things that they got to deal with. And I don't blame them. I'm kind of in the same camp, but not really, because I mean, I kind of my lifestyle right now, as far as things is concerned, is not typical. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely private. I'm not telling you what's going on in my relationship or sexual life. You know what I'm saying? I got women that listen to me. I got actual relationships. I got kids. I got women that I've been with that listen to me, and I ain't trying to make them jealous, you know what I'm saying, at the very least. And then, yeah, it does not profit me to tell you what's going on in my personal life like that, because it's really not typical. And then it ain't no gay shit, but it's just, I don't need no extra hate, and I ain't trying to brag, and I ain't have motherfucker. I ain't trying to give nobody no armor to attack me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm living a life that is not. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to brag or nothing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't definitely not no incel. I'm far from an incel. I'm way, way far from an incel. But nonetheless, man, I mean, you could, you know what I'm saying, you could have whatever reality you want out here. I mean, you just gotta kind of, you know what I'm saying, take care of yourself, and stick your chest out here, man. And you know what I'm saying, it's not, it could be a lot better. It is very much a toxic dating market. I think if it was like kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, I think that was a pretty good time. It was a lot easier then. I think it was more like that. I think it would be a lot better, but unfortunately, it's pretty toxic, and a lot of people are, a lot of people on some like hit and run type shit. Like, that's just kind of what it is. Like, hit and run, and I don't know if that's sustainable for society. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I don't think it is, but um it just kind of what is going on. But it's not even like that, because it's like people are not even hitting and running. It's, people, a lot of men are, going on having droughts and long term, sexual, droughts and incapacitations and all kind of shit. So it's almost like kind of weird, like a kind of weird dystopian reality where you got women that are also femcells as well, and they're not doing anything, and everybody, a lot of people scared, and then of course, I mean, women are scared to have babies. That when I was really younger, I noticed that a lot. It was a lot of women. Most women were scared to get pregnant. You know what I'm saying? I remember that shit. So that's a big aspect of it too. So, um, but it's opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So you could travel. You know what I'm saying, and deal with that just like the snap of a finger now. And I think that's a kind of a dynamic that some people talk about, but not. They don't. They trying not to talk about it, or they not talking about it as much. But I think that aspect of men having an out, and actually quite a few men using that out, is kind of flipping the dynamic, you know what I'm saying, as well, because it's giving men options that, to have an out, you know what I'm saying. So and then now you got, Paul Pierce, he's even, he's recommending, because people know Paul Pierce, he's rich, he checks all of the boxes, right? He's like a, you know what I'm saying, kind of a lead, more of a leader of men type of thing, right? Everybody know him. He's a household name. He got a big podcast, So he even recommended, he's like, men should, pretty much date abroad or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so it's, yeah, I mean, I don't, obviously the women probably don't like that idea, or might not really like that idea or whatever, or have something to say about it, or whatever. Men already probably know. Most men know already about that. So, but I mean, the thing is that, yeah, that aspect is um kind of, and then idea, the aspect of the economy, right? And the job market, the job losses and job layoffs and whatnot is making an impact to where, yeah, what I'm saying, women are kind of getting more desperate, you know what I'm saying, and they need to kind of like lean on to some, maybe possibly some traditional values to probably push through, the future, you know what I'm saying? Because women need men. They should need men. They it's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's healthy. That's natural. You know what I'm saying? I don't find anything wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? It's no patriarchal, down with the patriarchy, and I don't even talk like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even talk like that at all. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, if that, I think women should probably try to use that as a tool, you know what I'm saying, to try to survive, you know what I'm saying? Get you a dude with an apartment, you know what I'm saying, or a place to live, and y'all cleave together and try to make it through, you know what I'm saying? Than just being homeless, sleeping on the street, you know what I'm saying, on the park bench. Get you a dude to help you out, man. And there's a lot of dudes out here, they got a fucking studio apartment or some shit, or they got a room in their mom's basement or some shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it's nothing wrong with that, man. That's the natural order of things. Um, it's kind of like women can actually be bums. Is I thought about it because I was thinking about my sisters and whatnot, and I was like, women can actually be. It's okay for women to be a bum, and then you know be taken in by a guy. That's just kind of how they. That's it's okay. Like it, you know what I'm saying? Women can actually be women are the only ones that could actually truly be homosexuals without any complaint. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. Like that's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't find anything wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Homosexual on, you know what I'm saying? Cook, be barefoot and pregnant and cook some food and clean up, you know what I'm saying, and be more quiet and go have some hobbies like crocheting, plant flowers. You know what I'm saying? That shit that's mad cool. I'm cool with that. That's a cool idea to think about. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm gonna leave you with. Hopefully you got something from this video here, this live stream rather.
I don't know if people are aware of this, but the most important decision you will ever make in your life after choosing to believe in God is the mate you choose to spend the rest of your life with. Your mate will either inspire you to grow into your greatness or they'll confine you to complacency. They'll either be your other half or they'll make you half of yourself. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, like, a good relationship will make you more youthful and bring out the best in you, and a bad one will age you prematurely and bring out the worst. So choose wisely.
Message.